Sarah. I'm your host. Thank you so much for being here this evening and joining us for our third Restless Presents webinar. Welcome to those that are new to Restless Presents, and welcome back to those that have been with us before. We're really excited to have you here. For those that haven't been here before, a little bit about Restless Presents. We started Restless in end of 2018, and over those 2 years we started to hear more and more from our members who wanted to share their vast knowledge and inspiring stories with the wider community. So we thought that Restless Presents seemed like the perfect opportunity for you, the members, to share with each other, particularly during the pandemic, actually. So we've got lots lined up, and we hope that you are equally as captivated and inspired by the breadth of you, our members' knowledge. We certainly are. We've got lots of speakers lined up. If you want to get in touch, if you want to share your knowledge and stories, please do get in touch with us, and we could see you on Restless Presents in future. Just a couple of boring notes on the format before we dive in to the interesting section of this webinar. You are more than welcome to keep your video on or off, entirely up to you, but for the benefit of everyone, please remain on mute just so that we can hear everything that Aliki has to share. We'll be saving Q&A for the end of the presentation, but as those questions come into your head, please do add them to the chat. I'll make a note of them and we'll ask them at the end. Or if you would like to ask them verbally, just raise a hand and we can ask you to ask Aliki verbally. Gaetano is on hand for any technical issues or questions, and he will respond to you in the chat. So on to the main event, which is experiencing profound well-being. And I'm delighted to introduce you to Restless member Aliki Reddy. Aliki Reddy has many years' experience as a profound well-being practitioner and transformative coach. She also has a background in teaching and online entrepreneurship. In recent years, since her own awakening experience, Aliki has dedicated herself to sharing this deeper understanding of well-being through various different forms of media, social media, online coaching for groups and individuals. She's a wonderful person. I've had the pleasure of talking to her prior to this, and I'm really looking forward to this presentation. So without further ado, Aliki, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. And hello to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I just feel so thankful that I can share this with you tonight, what I'm going to share with you, because it's something that I found out about a few years ago and everything changed. The way I saw my world changed, the way I experienced life changed, and now I get to share this with you. So thank you very much for giving your time to spend the next half an hour or so with me, or 45 minutes. We'll take some questions at the end too. So if any questions come up along the way, please do type them in and we'll get to them later. So this is all about experiencing profound well-being. And I want to share with you a little bit about my story. A few years ago, when I was doing a coaching course, a profound coaching course, I heard something I'd never heard before. I heard that I wasn't lacking anything, and that I already had well-being within me. And this was a completely new concept for me. I had just never come across this, and I found it unbelievable, really. So I want to ask you to have an open mind and an open heart tonight as I share these things with you, and notice what kind of thoughts and feelings come up as we go through this. Notice how you respond to this. So first of all, I want to tell you that you are not lacking anything in this moment. And to be open to this thought. So notice what comes up. For me, what came up originally was, yeah, right. You know, we have so many thoughts, don't we, about, well, you know, I need to be skinnier. I need to have more money. I need to have a better job or a job. I need to live in a better place, have a better relationship. There's so many things that come up that I need this to be happy. I need this to be at peace. And so to actually consider this idea of we're not lacking anything in this moment, it can sound quite strange, but anyway, keep an open mind, stay open to that thought, and we'll come back to it at the end and see how you feel then. Thank you for your patience as I scroll through these slides. So this was the other thing that I found out on that coaching course, that I have innate well-being. And by innate, I mean that you're born with it. It's built into you already. It's already there. And no one can take this away from you. So I want to let you know, all of you, that you have, every human being has something called innate well-being. You already have that well-being within you. And this again was a revolutionary concept for me, and perhaps it is for you too, because I always thought that I had to do something in order to achieve well-being and experience well-being. You know, I had to, I don't know, there's so many different ways, isn't there? I've read a lot of books, I've done a lot of courses, perhaps you have too. From a young age, I was reading books about how to be happy, because life always seems so stressful, so difficult. So to hear that well-being is something I already have within me and that I'm not lacking anything, those are two things that just blew my mind. So just consider them for a moment. One question that came up for me when I heard this was, well, if this is true, if I really have this innate well-being, and if I'm really not lacking anything in this moment, then why don't I feel that? Why don't I experience this well-being, right? Why do I feel stress? Why do I have all these stressful thoughts? And why do I worry? And why is my life this way, right? That, you know, I question these things, and we should question everything, really. And this is when I found out what the problem was, because we do have this innate well-being and we do have everything we need in this moment, but there's something that gets in the way of that. And this is what I want to present to you now, is basically an awareness of three things. And I will present them to you in the way that I became aware of them, because one awareness leads to another. Now, the word awareness, I had to do a little, you know, a little definition. There's always a little definition, isn't there, in a slideshow? Awareness means the state of being conscious of something. So I've got this little, I did wonder what kind of image could I put with the word awareness. So I've got these three little delicate flowers, because awareness is something that is delicate. It's something subtle sometimes. It's something within us, right? It's an inner awareness. And the first thing that I became aware of that changed everything for me, which I want to present to you tonight, And please let me know if you can't see the slides okay, is an awareness of thought. Thought as a whole, not one individual thought, but all our thinking lumped together is what I mean by thought. And I'd never thought about thought before. You know, thinking's just something that we do all the time, isn't it? And, you know, we're just thinking beings, right? So what is there to think about? You're thinking about things all the time. But what happened was, I've got a little prop here. Okay. What happened was that I became aware of thought. First of all, I found out that there's, you know, thought has a certain kind of nature. There's a nature to it. And the reason there's somebody with an umbrella there is because the nature of thought is that it's temporary, like the weather. Okay. So you know how a thought comes to you, and then you have another thought, and then another thought, and then another thought. Thoughts are always changing. In fact, you might be sitting here listening to this now and you might think, oh, I really must buy some eggs tomorrow, right? You know, or you'll be lying in bed later on and maybe you can't sleep and you're thinking about something that happened yesterday, you know, and you're running over it in your head. And then you see something else and you think, oh, you know, it just, thoughts pop up sort of randomly, really, don't they? Because we're thinking beings. And, you know, learning about this is very helpful because, especially if you think of thoughts like the weather and you realize, like clouds, really, you know, they come and they go. They come and they go. They're temporary. They're always changing. This is the nature of thought. Okay, so that's the first thing that I became aware of. And here's my little prop, which I like to use sometimes. You can see that. It's a snow globe. And what happened when I became aware of thought is, if you imagine that all these little pieces of glitter or whatever they are, if you imagine that they are the thoughts in your head, you know, we have many, many thousands of thoughts, don't we? Every minute, right? For a moment, I actually stepped out of the snow globe and saw what was going on. And this is what I hope perhaps you might experience tonight, or at least that you would have some kind of aha moment where you would catch a glimpse of what is going on from outside the snow globe. Okay. Now, this understanding of the nature of thought then led me, let's talk about this a little bit more. So, going back to the snow globe, there's being caught up in your thinking, right? When you're thinking this and you're thinking that, and then there's becoming an observer of your thoughts. That's when you can sort of step back inwardly. You step back to something deeper than thought, and you realize, well, you know, I'm not my thoughts, right? I'm something deeper than my thoughts. I'm the one who is aware of my thoughts. So then you can, there's a shift that can happen, and this can happen anytime throughout the day, and it might just last for a second or two, or it might last for a while. Everyone has different experiences. But there's a shift when you, from being caught up in your thinking to becoming an observer of your thoughts. And there's a beautiful illustration here of the sky. So if you just imagine that you are the sky, for example, and the clouds are what happens, they come and go, okay? So you are this person who is having thoughts, and the thoughts come and they go, but you are not your thoughts. Okay. And here's another way to look at it. This is a quote from one of my favorite teachers, Eckhart Tolle. He says, imagine you're a lake. The surface of the lake changes according to the weather, wind, rain, etc. But the depth of the lake remains always undisturbed. The depth of the lake is your inner state, not dependent on external things. So this is, I couldn't find a good picture of the bottom of a lake, but if you just imagine, just as you imagine being the sky for a moment, just being that stillness in the bottom of the water, no matter what's going on outside, there might be all sorts of, waves and things going on at the top, a storm going on, right? But at the bottom, it's always calm and peaceful. And this is something that each one of us has. But I think that because of the way we grow up, we tend to not be very familiar with this part of ourselves. And instead, we get very cerebral and we get very caught up in our thinking. So today, I'm hoping that you will actually become empowered to experience this stillness. Okay, so this awareness of thought and the nature of thought led to a further awareness, an awareness of time. Because once you see this, once you see what's actually going on inside you, then you can perhaps examine the content of your thoughts. Let's examine the content of our thoughts a little bit. Usually, most of the time, I would say probably 98% of the time, we are thinking about the past or the future, right? We're dwelling on something that happened, whether it just happened or a week ago or a long time ago, or we're anticipating something that might happen. And this was a huge aha for me, because up until that moment, I thought that everything I was thinking about was actually, it was real, my reality, it was happening. But if you think about it, the past has gone and the future is not yet. So how real is this time? Let's explore this a little bit further, right? When we're in a good place with our thinking, and we're thinking about the past, we can be remembering pleasant times, right? We all have happy memories. Hopefully, we all have some happy memories, right? And when we're in a good place with our thinking and we're thinking about the future, we can be planning something pleasant. We can be imagining something wonderful, right? This is a wonderful thing, right? Being in the past and the future isn't necessarily a negative thing. But here's what tends to happen, I think you might agree with me, is that this thinking can tend to get a bit out of control, because we're giving every thought our attention, because every thought likes to demand your attention and tell you, I'm true, listen to me, right? So we can end up having all these thoughts about the past, dwelling on something that happened, perhaps even something traumatic that happened, and remembering it again and again and again. And not realizing that every time we remember that, we're going through, it's like we're going through it all over again. All the emotions rise up and everything. Or worry. I think that's one that we can all really relate to at the moment with everything that's been going on in the world. Worrying about the future, thoughts about the future, what could happen, what might not happen, right? We have this file in our heads of everything that could possibly go wrong, right? There's so much to worry about. And so we're in this mental state most of the time where we're thinking about the past, remembering, dwelling, thinking about the future, imagining, anticipating, worrying ourselves to death, right? And what happens is we're missing something really important. We're missing life as it's happening because we are so caught up in the drama in our head. And we all do this innocently. We just do it innocently. We just do it because we don't know any better, right? And because we've been doing it our whole lives, and because everybody else is doing it. So this brings me then to the third awareness, which is the awareness of this moment. Okay, and this is where, when you can see the nature of thought and how it just comes and goes like the weather, and you can see the content of your thoughts tends to be something that has happened in the past. And, you know, when it happened in the past, it happened in the now, right? And anything that will happen in the future will also happen in the now. Bear that in mind. When you see all that, it just brings you to this moment right now. Because this is where life is really happening. And I chose this picture of the robin because I like the way that the robin is looking at me. I don't know if you like, you know, nature, but I love birds, and I love looking at birds. And, you know, when you're looking at something like that, that's alive, we could take the example of a baby or a young child as well. When you look at it and it's looking at you, you're just so, you're in that moment, you're so present, you're alert, you're awake, and you are just there, right? And usually when that happens, if not always, you have a little break in your thinking, a little gap, right? And you're just there. You're not trying not to think. You're just there in that moment. Being present, experiencing life, not up in your imagination or your memory. So here's another wonderful quote I want to share with you by Eckhart Tolle. As soon as you honor the present moment, all unhappiness and struggle dissolve, and life begins to flow with joy and ease. But don't take my word for it. And in fact, don't believe a word I say, because I want you to experience this for yourselves. So what I'd like to do now is let's experience the present moment together. Okay, so very simple. If you want to, you can close your eyes, but you don't have to close your eyes. Let's just take a few conscious breaths together. Okay, you don't have to count. I do like to take a deep belly breath, because a belly breath is when I breathe in deeply and sort of push my belly out. I like to do deep breaths because it brings me into a state of calm and relaxation almost immediately. So I invite you to try doing a few of those. just 2 or 3, or as many as you like, or just breathe normally. But for a few moments, I'd like you to bring your attention, all your attention, to your breathing. Okay? And let's just take a minute and do that. All right? Now, as you do this, you might have some thoughts pop into your head. And that's all right. Just let the thought come and let it pass by. You can come back to it later. All right, just for now, we're just going to be present, focus on the breathing, because the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Another way that you can become present is to tune into any sounds that you can hear. Sometimes there might be a clock ticking, or some white noise, perhaps something going on there in the background like a fridge or a fan. Just tune into this moment. And when you feel you're there, or here rather, when you feel that you're here and you're fully present, I want you to consider if in this moment, right now, there are any problems. This moment right now, when you're fully present. Notice how you feel, and notice, hopefully, an absence of stress, a delightful absence of stress, and the mind just getting clearer, because what's happening is, to use the snow globe, all those thoughts are settling down. They're settling down. Even if they come in, just let them pass by. And that's how easy it is to experience the present moment. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I'd love to hear what your experience of that was like. If you'd like to share that now or later, please feel free to do that. So if you remember, right at the beginning, the second slide that I showed you said that you are not lacking anything in this moment being the key. That in this moment, which if you consider it, every single moment is fresh and new. Every single moment is fresh and new, right? In this moment, you're not lacking anything. Thank you for doing that with me. Okay, so just to give you a little recap of those 3 awarenesses, the awareness of thought, to realize that we're thinking beings and that thought just rises up in us quite randomly, and it's like the weather. But you are not the weather, you're like the sky. You're the one who's doing the thinking, and you can observe your thinking just like we observe the weather. And the awareness of time, the fact that time, yes, we do, we have clock time. Clock time is very real, and we need clock time to keep appointments. You know, we have, you know, chronological time, but the time in the mind is really illusory. We're remembering something that happened. We are imagining something that might happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is when we're not aware that that's happening, and we get swept up with every thought that pops up, and we go this way and that way, and we suffer so much needless suffering because of thinking and being trapped in this time. And that leads us to an awareness of this moment and where real life is happening. What's going on right now? In your life right now, what's going on? Yes, we all have a story, and it's a very valid story, and we're very attached and connected to our stories. But sometimes, quite often, if not always, they can interfere with our experience of life now. I'd like to just take a little break here, if I could please, Sarah, to find out if anyone has, I think that there are some responses to my question.
Absolutely.
And then I'd like to carry on a little bit.
Are you able to read them, Aliki, or do you want me to read them out?
Would you mind reading them out?
Yeah, no problem. So,
thank you.
A number of people have posted in the chat. So Philip said that he noticed that he had no pain in that particular moment.
Oh, wonderful! Wow.
Yeah, and Carolyn said that it was just really nice to have a bit of relaxation and just think of nothing.
Yes.
Sue mentioned that it does make you focus and take away everyday thoughts and stresses. That was for me as well, actually. I can identify with Sue on that one. And Lisa said that it felt peaceful just listening to the wind howling outside.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experiences.
John mentioned that everything is transient, but pain can be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Aideen said that it was incredibly calming and it helped with your soothing voice.
Can you go back to what was the name of the person who said about the pain just now? Was it John?
John mentioned, John. Yes, everything is transient, but pain can be permanent.
But pain can be permanent. Pain can be permanent. I do absolutely hear you, John. But suffering is something that we don't have to experience all the time. And I really hope that that when we finish today, that you will feel more empowered and perhaps just have a deeper awareness that can bring you to this place of not suffering more often. Thank you for sharing, all of you. And I'd like to continue just a little bit, if I may. I've just realized what the time is. Am I okay to carry on for a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah, okay. No problem.
I'll finish up soon here. So these 3 points, I hope that it's easy to remember them here with these images. They all begin with T, if that helps. And now I'd like to present you with this fact that our feelings are actually created by our thoughts. Okay, and you can test this. Again, don't believe me, test it. when you feel something, backtrack and think, okay, what was I thinking? What am I thinking that is making me feel this way? And you will find that behind every feeling there is a thought. Okay, this is generally speaking. I'm not talking about if you know, like you know, fall down and hurt yourself or something like that. I'm talking about generally speaking. And because this is the way that we work, right? So we're learning about ourselves. This is something that, you know, when I found out about this, you know, I was in my early 50s, and I thought, why didn't I find out about this sooner? It would have saved me so much grief, so much stress, so much unnecessary suffering. This is why I'm so grateful that I can share this with you now. And I hope that some of you will take something away here, really see something, really have an insight. Because the fact is that you are one thought away from a different feeling. And this is something, again, to become aware of. This isn't about trying to push out negative thoughts and only have positive ones. It's not about forcing anything. It's not about, oh, you have to be especially, you need to have some kind of special skill to do this. This is a completely level playing field. No matter what the background, no matter what the age, we are all human beings, and we operate in the same way when it comes to thoughts and feelings. Okay, the content of the thoughts might be different, but we operate in the same way. And so when you understand that your thinking creates your feeling, then you're only ever feeling your present moment thinking. Okay, so when you get angry and you think, oh, that person shouldn't have just done that. Or let's say you're driving in the car and they cut you off, right? And you get angry, you feel angry, and you think you feel angry because they cut you off. Well, actually, if you look at it a little bit closer, you realize that you feel angry because when they cut you off, a thought popped up along the lines of, how dare they, right? Something like that. And the reason that you can believe me that that's true is because somebody else might be in exactly the same situation as you and get cut off, and it might not faze them. Okay, because they had a different thought about it. So remember that you're only one thought away from a different feeling. This is really empowering if you think about it, right? Just knowing this, just realizing this, just being aware of this means that when you're suffering, you can think a different thought. You can allow that thought to pass, and then you'll have another thought and you'll have a different feeling. And I'll try and hurry up a little bit here so I don't take up too much time so we can have some Q&A. So again, I've already mentioned this, but here you have this gentleman here who's probably reading the news, and we can probably relate to how he's feeling there. And a lady looking on social media. And this is you know, something to ask yourself. How do you feel when you believe certain things, right? There are things that we say to ourselves all the time. We have a constant narrative going on in our head. Times are really hard. I'll probably never get a job. This relationship isn't going to work, etc., etc., etc. Right? We've all got our dialogue, our mind chatter, right? How do you feel when you believe that thought? Notice your reactions to things. Notice your reactions to the news. And consider perhaps for a moment, this would be for another time, another webinar, another time, who would you be without that thought? Can you see the writing clearly on this? Yes, okay. So what we have here is, before waking up to thought and having this awareness of thought, we have an outside-in misunderstanding. We think that everything out there is causing our suffering. If only something out there would change, if my circumstances would change, if that person would change, if my job would change, then I would be okay, right? That's the outside-in misunderstanding that we all grew up with and we all tend to have through no fault of our own, right? No one's to blame. And through this awareness of thought and all the other awarenesses that it leads into, we develop an inside-out understanding where we realize that actually my experience of life is coming from here. It's coming from within me. It's coming from my thoughts, which are creating my feelings. And just getting to the last couple of slides now. So I did try to use different ages here for the images, because so often you just get young people, don't you, on the images? Want a bit of a fair representation. But here you have a gentleman at the top who's trying to solve his problems. And don't we all do this? Don't we all do this, especially in the middle of the night when you wake up? You're trying to solve your problems. And we think, if I think about it long enough and hard enough, I'll figure it out and I'll solve my problem. But the mind becomes tangled. Remember that picture of all the mess, the black and white mess, right? The mind becomes tangled and full. And that's the worst state to be in to solve any problem. It just creates more problems. But with the awareness of thought, it's almost like you step back, you have a shift in your awareness, in your consciousness. Your mind becomes clear. So you go from this to this. Gradually the thoughts settle down. You saw how easy it is for that to happen. It can happen in seconds, right? Just by coming back to this moment and your breath. Or the sound of the wind. I love that. And then with your clear mind, you will find that so many of your problems will dissolve. This is what happened to me. After decades of trying so many ways to get rid of my problems, get rid of my stress, and be this peaceful, happy, joyful person, my insights, this awareness just caused all that to dissolve. That doesn't mean I don't think about the past and the future, or I don't get stressed by any means, but it was really like taking off a huge rucksack full of rocks, because when I do get that way, I know it's just the weather and it just comes and goes. I don't give it all my attention. And so this is how you experience your innate well-being, which is also very profound. And I would like to finally thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I've gone a bit over. And I'd like to invite you all to join, if you would like, if you're on Facebook, to join my new Facebook group, which I've just set up. This is the first public group which I've set up, and it literally just opened the doors a couple of days ago. And it's called the Wisdom Quotes Cafe. It's a place where I want people to come and feel welcome, and to discover words to spark your awareness. So what I've done is I have posts in there, both written posts and video posts, where it's not me, but it's people like Eckhart Tolle, for example, and a whole host of other wonderful people who have woken up to thought and woken up to the dream and the illusion, really. And there's a lot of wonderful words of wisdom there that have helped me on my journey, and I know will help so many other people. And I know there are people who just have never come across these people. So I wanted a place where people could come, and whether you've heard of these people or not, there will be something there for you to help you on your journey. It's set up as a social learning group. So there is a guides section, and you can go through the guide section, and it can really help you on your journey of awakening. So I hope that if that sounds interesting, that you'll come and join the Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and type in the search Wisdom Quotes Cafe, and you'll find it. And I will be there. I'm there every day, and I will be doing live videos in there. And we'll see how the group grows and evolves. And finally, also just to let you know that I do have a website if you'd like to go. It's my name, alikireddy.com. Aliki is Greek for Alice. And that's where I put a lot of my own content that I've created. I've created videos to help people with this understanding. So I invite you to go there, and you can contact me through the contact page there. So thank you very much, and happy to hear your questions.
Thank you so much, Aliki. It was super insightful and really enjoyable. It was nice to do a micro meditation in the middle there. That was excellent. Thank you. We do have some comments and some questions that have come through. It's worth noting some of the things that our members have said. So Carol mentioned that now is all that we have control over. So I thought that was quite a poignant point to make there. And Sue mentioned that she was told once that a thought is just a thought and it may not even be true.
Oh, yes. Yes, actually, thank you. I forgot to mention most of the time they're not true, actually, but don't take my word for it.
And Philip said thoughts are not good or bad, they are just thoughts. Which I thought was...
Yes. That's the other thing is just not having that judgment on them is also very, very releasing. Yeah.
We do have a question from somebody, and so many thoughts and feelings come from our filters in the past. Our experience influences our decision making. Should we move away from these, or should we be aware of how they are influencing us?
Well, the awareness here, really, the main awareness is to realize that they do influence us very much, and that basically we have a conditioned mind. Okay, so everything, from the moment you wake up, you're going by your knowledge of the past. Okay, and this again is interfering with being present with life as it is. We're missing out on a lot when we do that. So it's not that we don't need to, again, condemn the past or try and, sweep it under the carpet. We don't need to try and do all these things. All we need to do is to actually let our mind be free by not being so attached to our thoughts, and specifically in this question, our old thoughts. Okay, again, you can be aware that, okay, let's see, let's say you're going for an office job, okay, and you had an office job in the past and you had a bad experience in that office job. So now you have this thought that I'm not going to like working in an office. Okay, that's a very simple example. This is happening all the time. We are looking through our filter, our lens, which is based on the past. So anytime you do that, it's good to be aware of that, but don't get lost in the thoughts. That's the thing. Because you suffer. At the end of the day, you suffer with that. I hope that answers your question.
We had a question around people are interested to know what led you to your awakening, Aliki.
Well, as I said, from a young age, I was reading books like How to Be Happy. So what I did was I projected my life into the future. I always thought happiness was just around the corner. Okay. And I actually traveled the world because I thought that happiness would be in the next country, right? I had many jobs because I thought happiness would be in the next job or in the next relationship, right? It was always coming. It was always just around the corner. I just needed to get this and then I'd be happy. I just needed to get there and then I'd be happy. But ultimately, it was always me. I just always ended up with me in whatever my life experience was. And so I wasn't satisfied with life. So there was a restless searching, and that's what led me to it. And ultimately, I was, like I said, I was taking this profound well-being coaching course, and the teaching in that was very different to anything I'd ever heard. Some of the things that I shared with you tonight that I'd never heard before, So it was this seeking, just this seeking that surely life isn't supposed to be this difficult, this stressful, this surely there's something else. And there is.
Thanks, Aliki. Another question we had is, so being in the moment, is it a constant state of being, or is it something that you find those moments throughout the day, or does it and also does it depend on the stage of the journey you're at as well?
Yeah, so this is where, and actually I have something in the group, there's a post that answers this, because everyone's experience is different, right? So you might have this, you might have it just for a few seconds or a few minutes, and you might find that as time goes along, it gets longer and longer, right? And for some people, it can last for a long time. So everyone's experience is different. We don't need to compare our experiences or feel less than in any way. The important thing is just that you experience it.
We've got a question here that says, how do I learn to deal with fear?
Okay, well, that one I'm afraid I can't do in 2 minutes, but if you'd like to join the group, I will introduce you to a gentleman called J. Krishnamurti, who said some incredible words about fear. And we can go from there. This is the thing about the cafe, is I'm introducing you to people who can answer these questions in a much better way than I can, because they've had the experience. Fear, you have to realize, what is fear? Right? It's a thought, right? Fear is a thought. And it's also fear about the future, isn't it? Something that might happen.
One question I had for you as well, Aliki, being in the moment and being present is something I personally struggle with quite a lot, and finding ways to try and make that work for me. Are there any actions or small things we can share with the audience today that they can take with them to try and practice and help them along their journey of being in the moment?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I want to encourage you to see being in the moment in a different way, because the way I saw it, and I think the way many of us see it, is that it's like sort of a mindfulness moment, right? So I need to really stop, and I have to make this effort to have this moment of mindfulness. I really should meditate every day. And then if I do that, I've had a successful day. And if I don't do it, right? So it's like something to tick off. Okay, I've done it. I've done it, I've been mindful now, maybe I can, you know, eat more slowly. And I don't want to ridicule these things, because these things are all very helpful, right? They're wonderful. But let's change our view of that and realize that actually what you're talking about is, perhaps we can rephrase it and say, is there a way that I can be more present in my life instead of wrapped up in some psychological drama, right? Excuse me. So if you think about it like that, you realize, and again, I have some excellent posts about that, an excellent video about that I'm thinking of. But if you think about it like that, right, there's what we did today. There's taking a conscious breath, which you can do anytime, anywhere, right? And I especially use that if you're feeling if you're in an uncomfortable situation, or you're nervous, or you're experiencing pain, or, you know, you're really just struggling with something in that moment. If you do a couple of those belly breaths and bring your attention back to your breathing, right? So that is something you can do. Again, tuning into the sounds, tuning into your senses. It can be something as simple as feeling the table here. But again, it's just realizing that every time I come back to this moment, I'm in this great place where there's no problems, and I feel good, because you're in touch with that well-being within you, and from that rises up everything you need: wisdom, clarity, joy, peace, love, creativity. It's just right there. And it's as simple as, you know, when you wash the dishes, you just tune into washing the dishes. That's it. You're just right there doing what you're doing. Whatever it is you're doing it. You're not somewhere else in the past or the future. So just practice that. Just give yourself a pat on the back every time you do that. And the thing is, we're wired in such a way that when we do something that makes us feel good, we want to do it more. And when we do something that makes us suffer, we want to do it less. So really, when you wake up to how, you know, believing your thoughts is creating a lot of your own suffering, you basically stop banging yourself on the head with that hammer. You know, you stop doing that and you just feel better. It's almost too simple, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds simple. I think, yeah, there's something to work on. Carol mentioned the more you do it, the easier it becomes. That's probably very, very true.
Think of how a little child is. Think of how you were when you were born, right? Think how happy you are in the beginning of your life before you learn how not to be happy, and how to worry, and how to look through life through a different lens. We still have that. We're still that person.
Thank you, Aliki. I think that's it for the questions. It sounds like everyone's thoroughly enjoyed themselves.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll be following up with an email for your feedback. As always, we like to incorporate that to see how much our members enjoyed things, and if they would like to see more of this kind of topic and what other things that they would like to see. If you want to share your knowledge or your experiences, please do get in touch. We're always keen to hear from you and help facilitate you share that with the rest of our member base. So on that note, thank you, Aliki. Thank you, all the members, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care. Bye.